the big news of this week was, of course, A&M pulling the metaphorical trigger and blowing $75 million to tell someone not to come back to work. What a life. What a life that must be like.
Jimbo's sitting on the best retirement plan known to man. He's set, man. He's good to go. That is the most enticing way to get fired I've ever heard of in my life.
That phone call for me would have been like this. 75 million. Don't come in tomorrow. All right. Peace.
Right?
That's it.
God.
I'll come in like 2 days from now and clean out my office. You know, that's it. I mean, like.
Yeah, that's and it's like, it's a coveted job. It's obviously in the SEC. It's one of the top 3 schools in the nation in terms of, disposable revenue, well-known oil boosters, a lot of, boosters in general to the athletic department. So Texas A&M's an enticing job. It's in a hotbed recruiting area. It gives yourself an instant pipeline. So whoever comes in there, regardless, one is going to have at a minimum the skeleton of a talented roster, and to an immediate boost likely to whatever recruiting situation they just came from, barring, a change that we're not expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it had been on the table. I think the conversation about it had been out there for probably, since last year, especially. And then this year gave him an opportunity to do his thing. Hasn't worked out. They'd already planned it like a week beforehand. With that type of money involved, you have to pre-plan those types of endeavors with your boosters. But again, that leaves now this huge coaching void. And obviously, multiple names have come up. And as usual, as always, Oregon's head coach comes up all the time. So what let's just recap. So I always love this too, because everyone says, hey, Oregon's a jumping school, go there, do good, go bigger.
Stepping stone.
Well, yeah, stepping stone. There you go. That's the correct term. And then when you tell people the facts, they go, oh, maybe never mind. That makes more sense. Because again, we had Rich Brooks, Mike Bellotti, Chip Kelly. That lasted 34 years between those 3. Chip Kelly went to the NFL. Mark Helfrich got fired. That's not a stepping stone. He got fired. Willie Taggart left for FSU, his dream job, after 1 year. And Mario Cristobal, after 4 years or whatever, he left for his alma mater. It makes sense to go to your alma mater. Totally got that.
He went to go take care of his mommy.
Well, yeah, be closer to family, all that stuff. So, but with Lanning, there is no connections for the most part outside of Georgia. His family is all settled in Eugene. He has 3 kids. I don't see why he would be like Texas A&M. Hell yeah. Outside of purely money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Here we are again. This coaching shit.
You know what they say, money talks. I mean, it makes sense. I think more so what it is, it's like a program like Texas A&M, they're almost doing themselves a disservice if they don't reach out to people like Dan Lanning, and, some of these hot coaching, people they want. It would only make sense to give them a call, at least, put the feelers out there, kind of see where their head's at. If not, no big deal. You kind of move on. Like I said, it's a coveted job. So it's something, you're still going to find a hot candidate for. But yeah, it's like, it just kind of pulls Oregon fans right back into what we've seen time again with, first Willie Taggart dipping out, and then Mario saying, I'm here at Oregon, you're going to have to drag me out of here kicking and screaming. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, by the way, headed to Miami. And, it shocked a lot of Oregon fans at the time, and it sucked. We kind of felt like we were sitting dead in the water at a point. But then here comes this man, Dan Lanning, and it's like, it's one of those situations that almost feels like it's too good to be true, in terms of what we got just after Mario, it was truly a blessing in disguise. And then, the minute his name gets mentioned again, Oregon fans want to freak out, and it's cool. I get it. I really do. It's like, but at the same time, you really got to take a look at the context of the individual situation here, so it's like, well, obviously I'll jump right to Monday, the Monday presser. It was addressed. Somebody was going to have to ask the question, right? And then I'm sure all of us saw it here. I'm sure everybody else who's watching has probably seen the video pop up on their socials at some point. But Dan Lanning basically came out here and he said there is 0% chance. He's like, I am here. This is where I'm not going anywhere. He's like, we're building something here. Da, 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 da. So he like really reaffirmed it. And, a lot of what it is it was kind of met with, obviously you're going to be met with trolls and such, but it was also Texas A&M fans were like, oh, that's what you have to say, da, 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 da. But then I'm sure we also saw the same clip where it was like, it played the Willie interview, it played the Mario interview, and it played the Dan Lanning interview, kind of addressing this very same question. And the Willie and Mario, they attacked it one way. They said, I don't want to talk about it. Nothing's going on, da, 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 da. Well, they dipped, right? And then Dan Lanning looks in the camera and he says, I will say it till I'm blue in the face. I'm not going anywhere. So
he reiterated it today again on the ASU preview, and he said straight up, like, people don't understand what we have here at Oregon, the backup, the facilities, the support, everything. He's like, why I don't need anything else. Now, that's all kind of coach speak, in some degrees of a polite way of dealing with it, but I just don't see it. And like LW saying here, that's what we just talked about before we went live. If it was Georgia, I would be like, that I could see. But outside of Georgia and even the Alabama, maybe, it's like, I don't see why, outside of money, purely money.
And Lanning has proved the whole way through it's not even about money for him. He even as much as said that yesterday when he said, I am very well compensated and taken care of here. I have zero reason to uproot for any which way or form, and he even addressed the Georgia-Alabama situation type too. He was like, unless, even if something crazy came up, it was my total dream or my home or something. He said it's too early. You can't just go, oh, whoop, and because you're going to get pegged. And so if you build something and build it over a sustained amount of time, and then a prolific job or something comes up 5 years, 10 years down the road, then you can take a look at that job and go, well, maybe, I'm kind of gotten to the plateau here. There really isn't anywhere else for me to go any more higher or anything. So maybe I'll go try and fix this over here. But to just come in and go, whoop, and bounce, it is no good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on your school. Oregon got hit pretty freaking hard when Cristobal left in a number of ways. Even got hit by the alums, as I believe we brought that up a few weeks ago, the letter that Achille and Joey and everybody wrote to
the Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, to the president of Oregon, and was like, what is this Dan Lanning gonna do? What, you couldn't get anything better? And now they're like, oh, we were way wrong. We were way off. This is great now.
Well, and one thing is, like Willie Taggart left after 1 year for his quote unquote dream job. He had already been a head coach at Western Kentucky. So it's not like he hadn't been a head coach. This is Dan Lanning's first job as a head coach. Oregon gave him the shot. And then you look at the numbers. Yes, A&M has a lot of money. We all know this. Every A&M fan in and the fan base will tell you how much money they have from their boosters. But when you pay a man $75 million to not come back to work, then Dan Lanning has a $20 million buyout. That is $95 million immediately they would have to spend just to even get him to
Before
go there.
you even
Then they
yeah.
would have to raise his salary. And Oregon is not paying him like top dollar right now. But if it came push to shove at that point, how much money does A&M actually have to dish out up front? And then how much will Oregon and the boosters or Phil Knight cover to keep him?
Well, and even at that, what it is at the core, say in some crazy world, we did get to that situation where it's an all-out bid war, Oregon versus Texas A&M, Nike versus the oil money straight up. What they're really doing at the core is they're bidding over a second-year head coach. You know what I mean? I understand Dan Lanning. I love the man. Obviously, we praise over him every week. I think all three of us here absolutely love the man. And, I pray he's with us for an extended period of time. But once again, he's still a second-year head coach. So I don't see a university coming out here and saying, I'm going to give him 10 years. I'm going to give him, averaging on like $15 million, $20 million, $30 million a year. I just don't see it happening. It doesn't make a lot of sense, regardless of what the narrative
unless A&M wants to risk taking that chance again. Because when they gave that to Jimbo, even I was like, why?
And they were about to
all guaranteed too. Not even like, here's this contract. Your buyout though is like $30 million if we get rid of you. It was all guaranteed. I'm like, that's stupid. Like that's ridiculous money. I don't know what Dan Lanning's actual salary is. The most A&M would do is maybe jack it up like $1 million, 1.5 million maybe. I don't think they're going to be going that level with Jimbo, like Jimbo level, like 10 million, 11 million a year. That would be. I mean, if they do, bless them. But
the problem, and here's the funny thing about that too, is I've been listening to some of their stuff too. And right before Jimbo signed that extension, there was talks. There was only like a year left on the deal, on the initial deal. They were more concerned that he was going to leave possibly. And then a year and a half later, they fire him.
Yeah. It's just
after giving him a $75 million extension. Why the fuck did you give him the extension if you were going to fire him a year later? It's stupid.
It's such a big risk. Regardless of who it doesn't matter. I don't care if Nick Saban comes over there. There is zero guarantee that they will ever win a national championship, that they'll ever be successful. There is never a guarantee in college athletics. And it doesn't make sense to tank your universities, what you have in the well, to tank it for one man who may or may not bring something to your school. I get it. He was a great coach, won a national championship, went back to the college football playoff a second time, had a Heisman winner. He's been a successful dude, won a national championship as a coordinator at LSU. Like, he's been a successul dude. I get it. But
he rode crab legs all the way to the trophy. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I had to go ahead and change it. Now we're talking. I wore it Saturday, but I'll put it. I had to throw it back on again tonight.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was very nice to see that Saturday night.
But I mean, that's why I'm saying text them how much are you going to stretch, but also think Oregon's moving to the Big Ten. Lanning is building this team. Now we're going to move to the Big Ten. We're not going to get full money for a few years, but every year it's going to increase. So think if the boosters covered that little extra for, like, say, an extended 2-year contract, especially if he goes to the playoffs this year, even if we get out the first round, they will probably give him another contract extension for at least 2 more years. And that'll probably be upped. Well, think with Big Ten money about to start coming in, why would he jump somewhere where he has to start all over again? Coaches do dumb things, I guess. They have their own drive. And what was the best comment I saw on one of the streams is like, who knows what coaches want to do? They all want to win. They're all just psychopaths in some way. I mean, it's true. I mean, they all have their own objectives and ulterior motives, but
yeah. Did you guys see the video this morning of the fired Ken Dorsey throwing a fit in the booth last week in Buffalo?
No.
He's slamming his clipboard, throws his headset down. He's punching walls, flipping out. He was just going insane. And then they fired him a week later.
Whenever I hear about coaches throwing a fit, it's still the greatest memory of Mario is in that, I think it was Cal game. They scored a touchdown or something that got a penalty, and he did the headset smash. The Mario smash with the camera fully on him. He just threw it, and it flew and like hit an assistant behind him. He threw it so hard.
Mario. Yeah. I love a good freak out. You know, you see Dan freaks out in a very different way, though. You know what I mean? He looks calm and composed when he needs to be, but that man is always on 10. Always.
He's not afraid to grab. He's not afraid to grab a player, pull him to the side, and yell at him,
and then let you go.
Always on 10.
Yeah, and just move along. Like Spaz sent that thing, and that's the one thing is, like Dan Lanning also has a family. They have settled in Eugene. His kids are growing up. Does he want to uproot them? He seems very family oriented. He already uprooted them to move all the way from Georgia to Oregon. Does he want to go Oregon all the way to Texas? Again, money talks. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I just don't feel the connection. Mario, you got Miami. Alma mater. You got it. That was pretty simple.
Yeah.
Well, and what, Dan Lanning going to leave us for William Jewell College? No. Yeah. You know what I mean? And even Alabama and Georgia, you know, though, like, I get it. He coached there. Don't get me wrong. Won national championships, been there. But at the same time, at the very same instance, that was really like a blip on the map. You know, he was a year to 2 years. What was he? 2 years at Bama as a GA, moved over to as a DC role for, I believe, another 2 years. But he kind of talked about it in that hour-long interview that we could all kind of watched. You know, he's like, yeah, there were stops. I always knew I had to keep building until, you know, it felt right, basically. And I don't know, like, we just have no reason to believe it's going to change. Everything he said has been right, you know, in terms of what we wanted to hear, how he said it, like how definitively he says what he says. I'm not worried about it, honestly.
I mean, I do. And
JJ.
And he said even openly, how well have other Oregon coaches done when they've left Oregon? They've usually all pretty much tanked. He's like, why would I risk a good thing?
Well, why would I risk the curse continuing on me?
I mean, Chip going to the NFL, that was one thing. That was an upgrade in the sense. Take the shot at the NFL. You can't blame a coach for definitely wanting to go to the NFL.
And Chip and Mario are definitely both on the hot seat right now.
Chip definitely apparently is. There's word they're looking to fire his ass. I am so happy we did not recycle a coach. That's what pisses people off about Oregon is we don't recycle coaches and we still find success. And look at it like A&M. Spent all this money. Absolutely fucking nothing for it. Except for owing $75 million.
Sad.
Well, here's a question for you guys, hypothetically. Okay. UCLA fires Chip Kelly. In the summertime or sometime between now and the beginning of next year or whatnot, a coaching position, because we know more are going to come up, and somebody decides they want to come grab Willie Stein.
Mm-hmm.
And he decides to take an offer somewhere.
No, we're not taking Chip Kelly as an OC.
Chip's not coming back.
We're not taking him as an OC, if that's where you're
completely different philosophies, completely different approaches, completely different coaching styles. No way. Zero.
If that's where you're going with this. No.
I just thought I'd throw it out there,
Yeah, I that's one thing I appreciate. Like when Oregon was interviewing Wilcox, I was like, for the love of God, if you hire Wilcox,
and that's
I might not watch the season.
And that's who the players in that letter, they were wanting They were wanting
Well,
Oregon to hire
I
Wilcox.
understand they wanted an inside man, guy with a connection. Totally understood why, because that's how we always done it outside of Taggart, really. Because Mario had been there at least a year, the players wanted him, but I'm like, Wilcox has done nothing. That just seems like it would be a disaster. So, I at least the administration.
What about
sucked it up
Scotty
there.
Frost, though? He's available.
I think it's very much the same way, where it's like it's a very different approach, very different philosophies.
Yeah, we're
It's-
gonna have to wait and see for the off season for this, because I don't think anyone's coming for Stein immediately, because again, this is his first full year of actually being the OC. Now, granted, same with Dillingham, but Dillingham had a little bit more involvement under people. Plus, ASU was his alma mater also.
Right.
So there's those differences where when it's your alma mater, you kind of get why coaches do that. You kind of understand.
Yeah, I think I don't worry about Stein. I think Tosh is the only one, just because Oregon's defense has drastically improved. With that being said, an early prediction: I don't think he's going to leave.
Hey,
I
what?
think Tosh.
I don't think. I think the staff stays in place for at least a second year, another year with Stein and Tosh, or a third year with Tosh, but second year with Stein. I just see that if A&M came calling for Lanning, I think the boosters would just say, what are they offering? All right, we're going to match this. We're going to make that money back come Big Ten money anyways.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see at this point,
Unless
even if
it's
they have to
some
expense
major
it for a
school.
few years, so to say, they'll make that in return back, basically. I don't know.